Malcolm, man, Malcolm. Malcolm was a Muslim. African uprising led by Muslims. That same tradition carried on. And Malcolm using Islam as a weapon of liberation. As a weapon of liberation. This package has not been, we haven't seen this package yet. I'm talking about on a national, international level, you know. We haven't seen this package yet. Because whoever comes up with this package, they may be ready to die. Whoever comes with the package of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, they got to take it further than Al-Hajj. Because he only got so far. So they got to take it further. But whoever comes up with this package, Quran and Sunnah, know who you are, Islam, black consciousness, but not nationalistic. You hooking up with other Muslims all around the world, other movements and so on and so forth, and using this Islam as a weapon to challenge this unjust slave system of America, you better be ready to die. Because that's the package that we need. That's the package that's needed. We haven't seen that package yet. We haven't seen that package yet. When Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, brothers and sisters, came to Islam, the Quran and Sunnah, that set something in motion. What did it set in motion? It set in motion brothers, Muslims, Quran and Sunnah, African Americans who are using this Islam as a weapon. Now, this is important. When Malcolm left the Nation of Islam had 12 more years, 11 more years of shirk to do. They had 11 more years of shirk to do. He was kicked out in 64. Elijah Muhammad died in 75. Malcolm comes out in 64 and says, the Quran and Sunnah, hey y'all, check this out. That wasn't real Islam that I had. It wasn't real. This is the real Islam. This is the real Islam. And came back advocating. Here in America, here in race-torn America, the Islamic religion is desperately needed, particularly by the American black man. Islam, Quran and Sunnah, Islam, a weapon of our liberation. Now, Malcolm, let's deal with his descendants. Because after we deal with Malcolm, I want to touch upon the significance of Imam Wafiq Muhammad. Because there was something major that he did. Major. All right, that we can't overlook. But we got to deal with Malcolm because Malcolm is going towards that legacy of Islamic revolution. Islam and revolution. Islam and standing up. Now, while Malcolm is doing his thing, and Malcolm has come to Islam, and hitting the Quran and Sunnah, and standing up, and in spite of what Spike Lee said in his movie, is still hitting them with fire after the Hajj. Malcolm didn't become a punk after Hajj. Malcolm was still hitting them after the Hajj. He was hitting them. He became even more, focused, more deadlier, if you will. But Malcolm was standing up with this deen. Another element of Muslims took on that mantle, brothers and sisters. And just like how we say that the Black Panther Party took on the political side of Malcolm, that so-called political legacy of Malcolm, there were a group of Muslims who took on that Islamic legacy of Malcolm. And this group many of us don't know about because they don't want us to know about them. But in the 1920s, there was a brother named Sheikh Dawood. Some say he was African American, some say he was from the Caribbean with a Moroccan ancestry. Sheikh Dawood opens up a masjid on the State Street in New York. He's teaching Islam, Quran and Sunnah, straight Quran and Sunnah, straight Quran and Sunnah, just that. There are some brothers who are studying under Sheikh Dawood. They say we need us a movement. We need us an Islamic movement, an Islamic legacy. They turn around and start the most significant African-American Islamic movement in this country that this country has seen to date. The Dar al-Islam movement. The Dar. The Dar al-Islam movement starts in 1962. But in 1968, something went down. In 1968, the Dar goes to another level and chooses Yahya Abdul Karim as their imam. And from there, when they chose Yahya Abdul Karim as their imam, the Dar began to set up masajid all over the country, particularly on the East Coast. Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. The Dar sets up masjid, speakers, microphones, so that you can hear the adhan 5 times a day in the community. Muslims who live close to the community, as close to the masjid as possible, setting up businesses around the masjid, having a rod, an army that is security for the community, having a Muslim Boy Scouts Muslim Girl Scouts, setting up the bay'ah, taking bay'ah, and so on and so forth, setting up the imam as the main leader. The Dar was serious. The Dar was very serious, and using Islam as a weapon for the liberation of our people. So when you talk about Malcolm, when you talk about Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz and his legacy of standing up with this Islam, the next group you have to deal with has to be the Dar. Because the people who are descendants, if you will, of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz are those who are practicing this Islam as a revivalist movement, as what it is, a revolutionary movement. Those are the descendants of Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. So from Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, we got to go to the Dar. And not only the Dar, but the Islamic Party. The Islamic Party based in Washington, D.C. Some of these old warriors are still around. These brothers were serious. There was word that the brothers in the Dar were training, they do paratroop training, because they were going to jump out of planes into the Kaaba and take over the Kaaba. The Dar had a reputation. They had a prison program. According to the Dar, you were not allowed to get paid for teaching Islam in the prisons. The Dar had a policy. No leader in the Dar is allowed to have a job in the system. That was a policy in the Dar. The leaders. When you go do prison outreach, you volunteer to go. But you don't go as a paid imam. These coppers ain't going to pay us to teach no real Islam. How is Uncle Sam going to pay us to teach Islam? So the Dar said, no, we'll volunteer to go to the prisons. The leaders of the Muslims in the prisons came from inside. Because when the Muslim leadership came from inside the prisons of those brothers who were in prison, when the Muslim leadership came from inside, the leadership had the tendency to be more militant. The Dar wanted it kept that way. The Dar was serious. From 1970 to 1981, 82, the Dar was strong. Strong. But then the Dar got taken out. The Dar got taken out by a sheikh. The sheikh syndrome, it started back then. The sheikh syndrome that we see today, oh, he's a sheikh, though. He's a sheikh. It started back then. Sheikh from Pakistan, Sheikh Jilani, came to the Dar. Threw some mysticism out at him. Got one of the main leaders in the Dar. And some people went with Sheikh Jilani. And some people stayed with the Dar. Some people stayed with the Dar. Caused major problems. It splintered the Dar. Sheikh Jilani, you know where he's at now? He in California, near Fresno. Got a whole bunch of houses up there. Sheikh Jilani, the same one who came and splintered the Dar, is in California now. All right? Now, the brothers who stayed with the Dar, what did they do? They went and they gave bay'ah, many of them, to Imam Jamil, H. Rap Brown, out of Atlanta. All right? Now, let's stop there for a minute. Go back to the Islamic Party. The Islamic Party out of Washington, D.C., contemporaries of the Dar, hooked up with Maududi in Pakistan, right? And the Jamaat Islami, the Islamic Party, Islamic group, that type of thing, right? The Islamic Party was serious. Some of the brothers there, all the brothers, serious, very serious. Activist brothers, Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz tradition, activist brothers, using Islam as a weapon of our liberation. The Sabakun movement is a descendant of the Dar. The Sabakun movement, led by Imam Abdul Ali Musa, is a descendant of the Dar al-Islam movement. That's how we fit in historically. It's important that you know